This is the Sisterhood Society podcast, where three sisters talk life, food, fashion, kids, and everything in between. Become part of our sisterhood where everyone is welcome at our table.
Welcome back to the Sisterhood Society podcast. We are here again with just Whit and I. Whit and me? Whit and I? No, me and Whit. Kate's not here. That's the bottom line of it. She's recovering from surgery. And so we are going to do another one without her. And then she'll be back on the following week. So one of the things that was most requested by our brain enthusiasts is to talk about kind of like behind the scenes
ourselves.
Just us.
Talk about
All about me. I want to talk about me. Want to talk about I want to talk about number one on my me.
and
Do you
tears
remember that
singing.
Anyway, a day in the life at Royal and Reese, or like behind the scenes. So we thought we would kind of talk through that because we feel like that one is a topic that we can do without Kate. Not because Kate wouldn't contribute. I just mean like there's a lot of topics we want to go through that we would like her input
want
on.
Kate's input.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we know enough about what Kate does during the day that we
We don't need to hear it.
we can talk we can talk through it. So anyway, we will start first with our what's good. So what's your good with?
Crap. Well, today I had a Chick-fil-A feast.
So Whit ate off her plan.
I did eat.
I enjoyed it.
I hope my coach doesn't hear this.
I'm just going to take a wild guess here that she probably
listen.
doesn't listen.
It's a good choice. It's a good guess.
But we had a good lunch, and I tried an autumn spice shake from, I was going to say podcast,
It was
Chick-fil-A.
shockingly delish.
It was really good, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish I hadn't splurged on it because I would have much rather had like an Arnold Palmer when it was all said and done, but it was good. It kind of had cookie bits in it, and we were figuring out that it tastes like a clove infused butterscotch shake.
Yeah, it had some undertone of like caramel or something.
Yeah.
It was delish.
It was good.
I will say that it is hard for me to find a good Diet Coke, and there's a blogger I follow that swears by Chick-fil-A Diet Coke, and I got one there, and I can't say that it was the best one that I've ever had. And then I also have heard like McDonald's has the best Diet Coke. They don't.
What is the best Diet Coke you've ever had?
Well, that's the thing.
You don't know?
It's hard for me to find. I know
so you
Chili's.
should now report back, and you should go and get Diet Coke from lots of places in town and report back to us.
I really should. I know Chili's has a pretty good Diet Coke, but I haven't been there in a really long time.
Chili's has the absolute best Dr. Pepper, and I know I've talked about that on this podcast, but it's still ranks up there.
So maybe I need to try Chili's.
But see, that's not a drive-through one. I feel like you need to go to. We should do this on the podcast one of the days,
Okay.
or just on stories, because podcasts might be hard to do. But we should go to a bunch of different drive-throughs, get Diet Coke,
Okay.
and then you can do a taste test and report back which one's the
here
best.
for that. That's a great idea.
And then while we're doing that, I will get a bunch of Dr. Peppers, because again, Chili's, I'm not going to go to Chili's and be like, hey, can I get a takeout Dr. Pepper? It's really one of those ones you have to enjoy like sitting.
It's true. This is like right up my alley, because I'm the type of person where I'm like, if I'm going to drink a Diet Coke, I want it to be the best Diet Coke there can be. If I am going to drink a coffee, I want it to be the best coffee it can possibly be. If I'm going to do something, it's going to be the best that I can do. So I'm really realizing I'm an all or nothing type of person.
You're just all in or all nothing.
I am all in or all nothing. This is like a life-changing moment. I'm processing it, and that speaks to me on a level. I am a all or nothing kind of gal.
So we should do McDonald's.
Okay.
We could try, let's see. Well, you
There's
already
some
know
places
Chick-fil-A,
that-
you don't know.
Yeah,
You don't like.
There's some places that don't even serve
Good
like
call.
Coke.
Because like, see, Culver's has like Pepsi.
Culver's is crap. Yeah.
And I think
any places,
Taco Bell has Pepsi.
I take that back. Culver's does not have crappy food. It's crap that they don't have Coke.
It's-
Is what it's trying to
Yeah,
say.
it's weird because I feel like Pepsi, like who drinks Pepsi? Like it's,
Right?
I
Who
feel like
drinks
it's definitely
Pepsi?
more of like a 70-30 split.
Yeah. I feel like Coke is number one.
When we were growing up, it was very much 50-50. If not Pepsi maybe having a slight edge. And now I feel like
Pepsi did
really
have better commercials when we were growing up, because they always had like celebrities.
Yeah.
But I feel like they cooled it.
Mhm.
They calmed down.
Because
and now
they realize that they are
the
inferior.
subpar. Yeah.
inferior to Coke. So yes. Okay. So we will do a Coke
Diet Coke
taste trip.
taste test. I will volunteer as tribute for you guys.
At the same time, I'll get Dr. Pepper from all those places. And then we can
Also,
say who's the best.
did you know that there's like a Fresca shortage in this town?
Oh yes, I heard. I gave Kristen Booth an update of like where to get it.
Oh
But
my
I don't
gosh,
know if
tell
she has
Isaac.
it.
Isaac has been like
Did he go to
searching
Schnucks?
everywhere. He's been to Schnucks. He's been
Oh,
to
Schnucks
Walmart.
sells out too.
I think so. He can only find like the mini ones, the mini
Oh,
cans.
weird. Schnucks usually always has it.
Yeah, I thought, but he went there the other day with Cheech and didn't find it.
Oh, shoot.
So it's like for whatever reason, Fresca has been. But did you know that? I think it was at the Chiefs game. Like they gave a can out to each person.
Oh,
So that could be why the Midwest is short
there's
on
more
Frescas
people that are
because
getting
they
into
gave it
Fresca.
to people at the Chiefs game. It was like the first Chiefs game or the second one. It was something. There was a quarterback that passed away, and in response to that, they were like giving their.
Who's his favorite drink or what?
I think they just Isaac said it was just because it's refreshing. I was like, that's weird.
That's
Okay,
different.
why Fresca of all things?
Yeah.
But anyways, there's a shortage of Fresca in this town for whatever reason.
It seems to be a epidemic.
It is. Isaac's really upset with it because apparently now his obsession has been passed down from my dad to
That's
now
fine.
Isaac.
Brian really likes it too, but he's not buying it regularly. But apparently he won't be able to even if he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, we are going to jump right in.
Dump right in.
Jump right into this topic. So we've had a lot of transition over the last couple months, and I feel like we are finding our rhythm. But the one thing you learn in business is that it is a constant pivot, regardless of how much you feel like you've got your ducks in a row. It could change on a dime. So we moved home in July. We our lease was up at the end of June, and so we decided that it didn't make sense for us to have the building anymore, and so we decided to work out of our houses. And actually, it's been a really good transition, in my opinion.
Okay, but here's the thing. So we were in Nashville. And we were just enjoying our birthday weekend. And Tara was like, okay, guys, we're going to move out of the building next week. And Kate and I were like, can you just give us a little bit more time? And she's like, no, we have to be out by June 31st because I don't want to be in
There's
the building.
only 30 days in June.
Okay, what? When I was saying it, I was like, that sounds weird, but we're going to move on. I had to do like that thing like January, February, March, April, May, June. So June only has 30 days. So anyway, she's like, we need to be out by June 30th. And we were in Nashville like over the 21st or like the week before.
We had 9 days by the time we came home.
9 days. So Kate and I were like, let's just give us a little bit more time so that way we can like, get our ducks in a row and get the stuff moved out. And Tara's like, nope, we're out by the 30th or 31st.
Well, in my defense, my reasoning was is that the building was getting bought out by new owners, and we didn't really know what the new owners were going to be willing to do. And I didn't want to enter a new lease, and I didn't know if they would be willing to allow us just to have like a week or two or a month there.
So
there was no
instead of
promises.
having that conversation with the new owners and being like, hey, would you mind giving us a few weeks into July, just move our stuff out? Or let's discuss a month-to-month lease. Instead, she was like, no, we're not going to have a conversation. We're going to move out June 30th and stress Whitney out. So we get back from Nashville and she just jumps right in, okay, let me just say right here, this is what is Tara's just like shining moments, because she just tackles things head on, whereas me over here, I get overwhelmed and then I cower in the corner for a little while until I can until I'm like, okay, just one foot in front of the other. So while I was doing that, Tara was over here getting everything figured out and just getting stuff out, selling stuff, just selling all the stuff in the warehouse.
Thankfully, we had sold off a decent amount of stuff before we had gotten to that point, because we had kind of been prepping ourselves that we were going to be, possibly moving out. But I initially had thought like maybe we would just extend it for like 3 months. But then when it came down to it, was like, I know it's gonna be a lot of work, but let's just get it over and done with and be out. And it was kind of nice. You have to admit, like by the end of it, it was just nice to be done and over with.
Oh yeah, no, I do not regret it in the least. It just felt like a lot.
It did feel like a lot
within 9 days.
Yeah, it was a lot to process. And actually, we were done before the 9th day was even up. Like we were able to get out of there, I think 5 o'clock on that last day. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
even, we weren't even there late. So it worked out for the best. But since we've moved home, Whit and I actually work out of my basement, which is kind of like, we've full circle back around. But we thought we would just kind of talk through like what a normal day looks like for us here at the office, because now it's very different. So we brought 2 of the desks home from the office. And so Whit and I actually have like a physical office space to sit at. So it's not like we're sitting at on my couches. Although I've been camped out on my couches for the last 3 weeks recovering from tummy tuck surgery. But basically usually we get here every morning. And then I typically, when I first get up before I come down, is I man the business page. Sarah and I kind of tag team that. So I usually do the morning posts and the evening posts, and Sarah does like the day-to-day stuff. And then I look at all of like the reports. I check to see how many first-time customers we have, how many returning. I look at our reach. I look at like, how the posts are doing, and like what we need to boost. I talk to our marketing consultant and kind of go through all those things. So I usually do that from like 6 to 8, not like continuously, but I kind of handle those things, help with returns, look at some emails, all that stuff. And then by the time you get here, usually you usually start in on editing if we have pictures that we're
my job just kind of changes from here to there, because like I can like prep photo shoots and just like kind of get things grouped together, and then we can photo items, edit them, and then make sure I've got them uploaded and things like that. Or there'll be days where I come in and I'm photoing sample items just with my iPhone and getting those set up so Kate can sell them, or just like kind of making sure that the sample items are all up to date and like organized. Or like there's one day I was doing returns, and then there was one day where I was doing orders, and there's another day where we're doing live videos, or we're working with Sendage's products. So honestly, it just is whatever needs to be done. We just dive right in. Mine hasn't been the same since we've been down here.
I would say our biggest thing that we work on is securing our collections. So we spend a lot of time going through every single day. So since we've moved to dropship, it's changed dramatically what we normally do. So like before, we would have to buy all these products, and once they came in, we would put them into collections. Now we actually physically make the collections in advance. And we work really, really closely with our rep to like know what items that we're needing and making sure that we have good inventory stockpile for those. So we go through those and we stage out what's going to be in each of the collections. And then we would sit down. Sarah and I usually do that kind of together. And so every morning we have like a new list of new items that come in, and I basically favorite them, and I'll put them in the cart so that way Kate can look at them. Once we put those into collections, then we'll sit down with Kate and I and Sarah and just make sure that it's a collection that Kate likes, because if Kate isn't behind it, then it's not going to sell. So Kate's got to have, something that she really loves or can get behind.
She's got like the fashionable eye too. So she's able to style things a certain way. And then like depending on the quality and like the look of certain things, she has just a way of like making it look beautiful. And that's kind of where she shines.
Yeah.
She just kind of knows how to like put things together.
So typically what we do is we will send the items directly here to us, is normally. It's been a little bit different lately, but the norm is we send them here to us, we stage them out into collections, and then Whit and I figure out, okay, what do we have to shoot this week? It's been a little bit different since my surgery, because we've been a little all over the place. We've been sending some stuff directly to Kate, but usually from week to week, you and I will figure out what do we have to shoot this week. And then any of that stuff that we shoot, Whit edits, and then we send all of those items off to Kate so that she can style them and take selfies in them. We also spend time, we do like an update call with our team just so everyone can stay in the loop on those items, and make sure that they know what's going on. So that way they're not out in no man's land, because you don't want the team, especially with everybody being remote, it's really hard to remember who you told what to.
Yeah.
And poor Sarah, every time she goes on vacation, we usually make like some major change while she's out of town.
She's like, okay, please update me.
And Libby just got back from Italy, so we were trying to make sure like everybody's in the loop on different items. But then we always have to save time to podcast once a week. So we're supposed to be ahead, and unfortunately we always end up at like 2 o'clock at 2 Tuesday at like 3 p.m. we're like podcasting and giving our podcast manager less than 12 hours to like turn around our podcast.
I always feel so guilty about that. I'm like, oh, she asked us for 24 hours.
Yes, a minimum of 24 hours. So we're trying to get ahead on those as well. And so we're coming up with podcast topics and just even like sitting down and actually doing them. It can end up taking us an hour and a half to 2 hours, because by the time we've like set all the microphones off and actually like, you know, shoot the breeze with each other and talk through, it can take a while before we actually get an episode that is usable.
Oh my gosh, the stuff
that ends up on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, Jesse knows a lot about it. Before we started shooting or like doing this episode, I looked down and realized that my mic was muted, and I was like, oh my gosh, how long has that been muted for? And did it mute the entire last episode? Luckily it didn't, but it gave me a good scare.
Thankfully you can hear us. That's the good news.
Yeah.
But some of the other things that Whit and I have been working on heavily, which is now going to be changing, is all of the returns were coming here directly to us. And so we were spending tons of time, like one, processing returns, but two, taking photos of them, and then writing text on top of the pictures so that we could post them in VIP, just resell them. And that was an extremely time consuming process. So if we didn't do that, we weren't selling in VIP, then we would do a sample video. And that takes a decent amount of prep work and stuff too. So that has now transitioned. This is another pivot, is that the returns are going back to the vendor. So that's something that's new for us. So we're dwindling down the stuff that we have here, and which will free up more time for us too, which is great.
Honestly, I feel like the main name of the game, if you're owning your own business, is like nothing is going to stay the same. Yeah. Like everything's always changing, especially if you're a social media like platform business. Like they're changing things up. You have to just like learn to pivot and move along, and just like literally learn how to make it work for your business.
I think what our marketing consultant said it best, you literally have to keep your foot on the gas on everything and then keep doing more. And so like, it's like, well, if you're going to place more emphasis on reels, don't stop doing any of the other things that you're doing, but then do reels in addition. And now it's like, okay, well, you need to invest in TikTok. And it's like, well, okay, we have to have our foot on the gas on all these places, and then we've got to add on this over here. So I think that that's the hardest part about business, is trying to keep all the balls up in the air without letting one of them fall, because it's like you can get really good at one thing and then something else starts falling by the wayside. So anytime that we have good momentum in a lot of areas, it's really hard to keep all of them performing well at the same time.
Also too, I feel like we had kind of like, before Instagram kind of changed things up, we had kind of just gotten comfortable with, you know, doing our lives and posting in VIP and just kind of doing our daily thing, like our daily routine. And that's how we did it. And then when Instagram changed things up and Facebook changed things up, we all of a sudden were just like pouting because that's not how we did things. And it took us a while to kind of get over it and be like, okay, it's changed. Let's move on, move forward.
I think we spent a lot of time in a victim mentality. Yeah. Like, it's not doing what we wanted to do. And we've worked so hard and we're beating our brains against the wall. And what you realize is that nobody, one, cares about the victim mentality. And two, you have to get on board or you're going to get plowed over. Like, you
get on board or get out of the way.
Yeah. One of the things I appreciate the most about Summer Alvarez, because she does a lot of tips and tricks for people that are, you know, trying to build their audience on Instagram, is that anytime Instagram comes out with like a new feature that you could consider super annoying or something that's different from what it used to be, what you used to like, she always puts a positive spin on how it can help work for your business. And I appreciate that about her, because I'm like, it's so easy to look at that and be like, oh, Instagram, why this?
One more change.
Another thing that we have to like, you know, change in our day. So, and I do feel like that's how you have to just look at it, is that it's never going to be the same. And you're going to be lucky if you get 3 months of identical rhythm in your business. You're going to be lucky if you get a month, to be perfectly honest. If you're trying to do e-commerce or something on a social media platform, it's always going to be ever changing, and not to get discouraged by it. One thing that I thought was interesting. So Bryce is our marketing consultant and we love him to death. He's like a family member to us, and he used to be a coworker with us at a previous job. And I was saying to him, he was one of the few people in our lives that just like truly believed in us, like even in the midst of like things being really rough. And he said to me the other day, he was like, I just knew that you guys, if you just kept plowing forward, that you were going to have breakthrough. And he's like, I have enough faith and, belief in you guys that I knew you could do it. And I was like, it's interesting because it's truly what it's about. It's just putting one foot in front of the other. But he was that one that was like constantly, outside of our parents, he was that one that was constantly like encouraging us and just being like, you guys, you can do this, and he was has always been one of our biggest supporters. But I feel like sometimes other people believed in us when we didn't always believe in ourselves.
Mhm.
So, but in addition to that, I would say the other thing that we're constantly working on is just figuring out like game planning, right? So we're not always the greatest about planning out in the future, because if we do, it always changes. We might plan out a couple months and then we're always like shuffling things. But we try to plan out at least a month to a month and a half out and try to figure out what our promos are. And so that way we can also prep like our emails and our graphics and what all those promo graphics need to be. So that way our team can be prepared. And the same thing with our collections, making sure that those can be nailed down so the girls can
So
work
there's
forward.
like some things that have stayed the same. Like obviously you just want to prep and prepare. The things that haven't stayed the same are essentially how you're presenting the information to social media, depending on if like TikToks are like more like people are
Performing better.
performing it better, or like reels or IG stories or posts. So like that kind of stuff has been switched up and changed around. And like before, TikTok was all about dancing, and now you can do whatever you want. And like even reels, like depending on, you have to use certain like certain sounds that are like trending and whatnot. So like there's obviously certain things and certain vibes that are getting people's attention and certain things that aren't. But there are some things that have stayed the same, which planning, obviously, like the infrastructure has stayed the same.
Yeah. And everything, I mean, it's a no-brainer, but the more planned out that we are and more ahead of things that we are, the better that we always do, just because you have time to pivot within it, right? Like we've run into countless situations, even just not countless, we've run into situations just even in the last month or two where we've had something planned out and something goes out of stock and then we're scrambling. But because you have all those items staged and you also have the samples, then you can move things forward. So it makes it a little bit easier to prep and plan, as long as you have at least taken the time to, make sure that you have your collections.
Yeah, problem solving has been huge.
Yeah.
Like you can just always think that something's going to go wrong. And you can't just like literally cry about it. You got to like come up with a solution quickly and move forward. Like, oh, that jacket that we loved like is out of stock. Okay, let's like do a different jacket. You can't get too attached to certain things or certain ways of doing things, because you're just going to be sitting there mad and can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too that I'm always trying to figure out is how do we better serve the customer? How do we make their experience better? So like, is there things I can do for the website to make it, a better experience, or like presentation, that sort of thing. Just even making sure that there's more information available to them. We've added like a chat on the website. We have added a wish list option, especially going into holiday here in the next couple months. That was a big request. Adding more reasons to our returns list, like as far as why, something's not working out. I just recently added a description bar in the cart. I mean, like little things that you wouldn't probably even notice, but just things to just help the overall experience and give people more information about what's going on. Those are always things. And then in addition to that, I'm always trying to find like how to source new things. So like we were talking through some kid items today. We were talking through like graphics for the future, like just things like that, like where we want to go, what we want to do with some of those items. If it's not in a place currently that we're 100% of what we want to do and where we want to go. So
as far as the move from outside of the building to here, what is your favorite, like what has been one of your favorite things about it?
Initially, when we first moved home, I wasn't sure how I was going to like it, to be perfectly honest, because there was a piece of me that liked having a separation of home and business, because when it's here, it's always here. And it's really easy to be able to walk back downstairs and go back to work. And I remembered that from when we were here before. And so I had kind of this, not PTSD, but like nervousness of like, oh, I don't want this to just literally take over my entire life again, or my entire house for that matter,
Yeah.
because it felt like last time it just felt like it took over, half the main floor and half the basement, or the entire basement. So I was a little bit nervous about that. So probably would say it took me a good week or two to really just kind of settle into being here. But the thing that I like best about being home is being able to see my kids more. Like, I like knowing where they're going, what they're doing. They come down throughout the day and see me. Sometimes they'll sit down here with us, just watch their phone or something and kind of play around their feet. And I like being able to do that because I do feel like, so much of their day, if you think about how little you get to spend with your kids, 8 hours they're spent in school. And so they're with other people that, aren't you for a lot of the day. And then if if they're being home with a babysitter, same thing. There'd be a lot of days I wouldn't have a clue what they had done all day until I got home. And so I just like being in the know a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I actually honestly, I can work anywhere.
Mhm.
Like, I'll adjust. I feel like my personality is, I can do whatever as long as it makes sense. So I don't mind being down here. I like the fact that it's more efficient because the old building, there was just so much space that we weren't using. It just seems so dumb. Like,
Yeah.
every time I walk in, I was like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
So it seems way more efficient now, and I like that. And I also feel like we haven't taken over your basement like
Yeah.
last time. That was one of my nervousness about it. Moving here, I was like, oh my gosh, the basement's gonna be like overrun. And we actually haven't. We kind of stick to our area, and we're kind of using less and less the longer we're here.
Yeah, it's definitely taken over less space over
Yeah.
time for sure. I mean, like, if Ryan wants to come down and watch football, he still can like sit on a couch.
Oh, for sure. And there isn't a bunch of stuff crowding him. Like,
Yeah.
there are some bins of stuff, but those are going to be going away soon.
Yeah.
And like, so it's actually kind of been really relieving
Mhm.
because I feel like we're just getting more efficient and like smarter with the way that we do things. And
Yeah.
this kind of represented that.
Yeah.
So for me in my brain, I'm like, this made sense.
Mhm. Yeah, honestly, it's been a positive move for the business overall. Like, it's given us, I think the biggest benefits of going to the dropship model is that it's given us the ability to offer a lot more product. It's allowed us to go deeper into sizes. It's allowed us to give a bigger variety of options. And it gives us the ability to try out things that we wouldn't have necessarily maybe carried before because they might have been a push item. And you would have been like, oh, I don't want to get stuck with this if it totally flops.
Mm-hmm.
So dropship gives you the ability to actually just try a lot more things.
Yeah, way more freedom.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. And like deeper in product, like we don't run out as quickly.
Yeah.
And
the thing that we didn't like about the previous model is that it's hard to have enough inventory that if something goes well that you can have enough for everybody, but not have too much that if it doesn't go well that you're stuck with it.
mm-hmm.
And so that was always this fine balance because like your volume would ebb and flow. And so I feel like a lot of people got frustrated with stuff selling out right at 9 a.m. and might have gotten tired of that model, and which I can't blame them for because I can't stand it when stuff sells out so fast and you go back later in the day and you're like, oh, this is stupid. I'm not even try because it's gone. Because that's not the model that we want it to be at. I mean, it's obviously great to have sellouts, but that's not the intent. We want everyone to be able to get what they want.
Yeah, we didn't want like a scarcity mindset like
Yeah.
when it came to clothing.
Or like people to be stressed out about checking out.
Yeah.
Like, that's super annoying. I don't want that for myself, and I don't like that mentality for the customers.
Mhm.
So that's the one thing that's been nice about this is that the depth of the inventory is a lot greater. And the thing that we always ran into trouble with is that our large and XL sold the best. And so then it was hard to make sure that everybody that's a large could get one because
we had to buy in packs.
yeah, so you'd have to buy more.
So when we buy in packs, you get like one small, one medium, one large, one XL. Well, the large and XLs would sell, but then we'd still have smalls and mediums. So if we wanted to buy more large and XL, we had to buy more packs, which meant more smalls and mediums that we'd be sitting on. So just like in general, business wise, it just seems silly.
Yeah.
Because we were buying these items that we didn't necessarily need, but in order to get the items we did need, it would come along with items we didn't.
One of the things too that's super exciting for us that's coming along the way is that our rep that we work with our dropship company, we absolutely love. We are very in touch with the like company's owner, and they have, you know, they want to pick our brain and know like what we want. They're very much wanting to make sure that we succeed. And so we are able to like source items with them. So one of the things that we have coming is a play suit that Kate actually got one off of Amazon, and that she's like, I love this. You guys have anything like this coming? He's like, let me check into it. I'm going to source it for you. And so it's supposed to be coming sometime this week.
Awesome.
And so stuff like that is really fun too for us, because we had contacts at each of our vendors before, but we didn't have that type of direct relationship that was like, we want this, and in 2 weeks we can have it. And so it's just that kind of stuff is super fun, because we're going to be able to tailor exactly what we're looking for more and more as we keep going. So
yeah, it's very much so like, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. So like the better we do, the better they do, you know? So it's been very mutually beneficial to be working so closely with them. And it's been honestly so nice.
It's just taken a lot of the pressure off, for sure.
100%.
I think that there was constant pressure, because it's changed the mindset of how you sell though too, because before it was like you'd sell something and then you have to repeat what you sold or what's still left over. And now there's not that. So it kind of took us a little bit to get in a groove, because you're like, okay, well, I don't actually have to recap product. I don't want to. I just can always keep showing new product. And that was like a very new mindset that we weren't used to. So it's been good. I feel like it's taken us we were really home July 1st, essentially. But I would say it's probably taken us a good 3 months to find our rhythm, for sure, because you're kind of trying to find your new digs, or find your new surroundings in July. And then August, it was like, okay, we're trying to figure out how we plan all our collections. And now September, I feel like this is the first month that we've really kind of found our full stride. So,
but it could change.
It probably will, because this is the end of 3 months. So I'm sure October will be totally new. But yes, overall, I just feel like it's been one of the best moves that we've done for the business since, it's probably one of the best moves we've made in a really long time for business.
If you could speak to other small business owners, what's some advice you'd give them? Post-COVID advice.
I think one of the biggest things is just being careful how much inventory you purchase, because we've made that mistake on more than one occasion. And as my dad would say, inventory is the death of every small business. So, you never want to get stuck with too much. And that's always a very fine balance. But the other thing that I would say is be really, really careful who you work with, because everybody and their brother is going to be emailing you or contacting you and telling you that they can increase your numbers or your business or your sales or something by 20 or 30%. And most of them are full of hot air. And
they wouldn't be reaching out to you if they didn't need the business.
Yeah, exactly.
If you think through that, you're just like,
But even some large businesses that that have seemingly good reputations, just everybody's trying to get their hand in your pocket. And you have to be really careful of who you're working with and making sure that they're people that you feel like you can trust, because I think that that's the hardest thing. We've run into even some people that we thought we could trust that took advantage of us, and there's money down the drain that we can't get back. So
there's several instances of that.
Yeah,
because they just like promise you the world and you're like, okay, prove it.
Yeah.
And then you give them month after month after month, because you're like, well, like maybe next month will be better. Like maybe they'll do better next month. Maybe we'll see some change next month. Nothing's happening, and they're just stealing your money. They think the reports they're giving you, they think they're doing you a service, and you're like, you're better off without you.
Well, it's just, I think what you realize is there's just a lot of things that you don't actually need, and you could have everything and it still won't move the needle. So I think just being very slow to add, really search out exactly what you're doing and take your time to make a decision. Be slow to hire. Because the thing that's the hardest, that was probably the hardest thing that we ever went through, is that when you're in a growth phase, allow the growth to really stretch you till you can't handle it anymore. And then decide what you can't do, what you can't handle. Because when you're growing, you think that the growth is never going to stop, or it's never going to come back down.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And so we definitely hired too quickly. And then you run into situations where you have too many employees and you have people that you don't have enough work for. And then you have, someone's livelihood on the line, right? So it's things like that that make it really tough and starts putting a lot of pressure on you because you have all these people that you're responsible for on the payroll. And it's really hard to say goodbye to really, really good people.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure that you like really truly need them. I would say like making sure that anytime that you're going through it, make sure that it's a good 3 months worth of business, that you can tell that this is something that's going to sustain and it's not just a blip and it comes
Mm-hmm.
back to a stable position.
Yeah.
You can always hire 10 people.
Yeah. If you are launching something, you're obviously going to have higher sales on your launch. Those aren't going to be the all-time sales. Like next month, you're not going to have those sales. Just FYI, it's probably going to dip, and you're going to have to figure out how to sustain sales beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
You can keep doing like big promos and things like that, but if you're doing like branding launch, naturally those are probably going to be the highest numbers you're going to see for a very long time. Also, when like Tara said, when you're hiring someone, also think about what it's going to be like when you need to fire them. Because if it's someone that you're close with, don't do it. Don't hire them. Because there might be a time when you need to fire them, which we've had to walk through several times. And those were probably the hardest days of business we've ever gone through. And
not because those people weren't good people. It was layoff situations where we had to cut back.
Yeah, it wasn't that they weren't doing a good job. Yeah. If anything, they were doing better than what we could do.
But the relationship just never stays the same as much as you want it to.
Feels like a divorce.
Yeah, it does.
Even though you don't want it. Those are some things I still feel like I'm grieving. I should probably sit down and process the emotions of that, because I think I am carrying a good 20 pounds of weight of grief from those times. It was very, very difficult. And there's really no way of rectifying it. It's just, it just is what it is. And you don't want to go back and like reopen the wound by like apologizing or something.
Yeah.
Even though there really isn't a way to apologize for that. So that's one thing in business that's very difficult. Oh, another thing too, I feel like everybody wants to go into business with their best friend.
Yes.
Why? Don't you respect your relationship enough to not do that to each other?
Yeah.
Not like, just business is hard. It's
I've
like
never
a marriage.
seen that
it's
end
very
well.
stressful.
The people that can do it well, props to you. I've never seen it end well, because anytime I feel like I've watched that, someone always ends up either being bought out or leaves, and it's usually not on great terms.
Yeah. Don't do it with your best friend.
Yeah.
I mean, family is one thing. Like, we were already close, and our dad even said, like, if this becomes an issue, you're closing it down. So we kind of knew that going into it, but we figured out a way of communicating in a healthy ways instead of like I
think the tough part with friends is that when it's family, you can blow off and you can be still family.
Yeah.
When it's friends, it's harder to be really honest. If you feel like you have a friendship that you can be totally honest with, and you can let them know, like, if you're upset or you don't feel like they're pulling their weight, those are hard conversations to have with friends.
You're always going to run into that. I feel like there's always going to be a friend that just kind of like doesn't do as much work as someone else. There's always going to be something like someone's going to be resenting the other for something, like whether it be like they put in more money, or they're doing more work, or they're taking too much time off. Like, there's always going to be something that you're going to resent someone for. I feel like in the friendship aspect, whereas like with family, I feel like we kind of figured that out early on and figured out how to like respect each other and like trust each other, that we all knew that we were doing what we could do. You know?
I think the other thing that I would tell a small business owner is that working yourself to death does not make you a better business owner and or more successful than someone else.
Yeah. It doesn't move the needle any further.
I mean, of course it might get you a couple extra sales, but at the end of the day, you do have to find a balance. Yeah. It's just, I mean, I think everybody goes into business for themselves because they want the flexibility, and in their heads, it's like, I'm going to work less than I did at my 40-hour job. And you realize actually what you end up working is 3 times the amount that you would have worked at a normal 9 to 5, but it's yours, and it's, you make the rules and you get to set the times and you get to, do what you want and have the flexibility. but it also comes with a lot of pressures, right? Like I would never go back to working a 9 to 5. Like I would never give this up for the world, but it doesn't mean that it hasn't been the most stressful thing I've ever done in my entire life either. So I do think that it's easy to think like I have to hustle really hard, and if I hustle this hard that I'm just going to do this much better than everybody else, and or I'm going to look that much better. Like there's no medal for working nonstop, right? Like no one's, I mean, yeah, people might look at you and be like, wow, they're really hustling. But the reality of it is they're all living their lives and having a good time, and you're just sitting in front of your computer. So like who actually won? So I just find balance with that, because there's not a reward in the end for how many hours you actually work. So you have to find balance in the midst of all of that crazy building years. Because there's going to be times you have to put in the extra time for sure.
Yeah.
But like we were just even talking today, like there's a lot of the day, like if you think like, oh, I have to work 8 hours, there's a lot of the day that you're like trying to fully, there's some days we're just nonstop, right? But there are other days where you're like, okay, I'm just trying to fill the time, right? Like I do think like if we just went balls to the wall for like 4 hours, we could go home the other 4.
Like we can make this into a half day, right?
I think that we could work ourselves into.
We did this really fast.
Yes. So, because there is wasted time, right? Like we're sitting around talking about The Crown, or like we sitting there talking about what we ate for lunch, and then we went and killed an hour at Chick-fil-A. Like, I mean, there's some of that
we went
time.
through the drive-through.
We did. We don't typically take a lunch, but
yeah,
in general, I'm just saying as a whole, like I do think that there's some stuff that if we knew that we had to really power through and get it done by like start at 8, get done at noon, so that we could be off for the rest of the day, I think we could probably do it.
But on some days, like sale days or whatever,
yeah,
we would like have to bring in sales in the afternoon.
Oh no, I get that. Yeah, for sure. But if you knew that you could work 4.5 days a week.
4.5 as opposed to 5.
Sorry.
I was like, that's not a whole lot. That's just like
you get a half day off.
1 half day. I was like, you really aren't.
I meant
selling me on this already. I'm out.
You could work. Let's say you have Fridays, we have to work a full day because of collections or whatever.
Okay.
But the rest of the week you could work half days. Like if you knew that you had to be here at 8 o'clock and we're going to shoot all the product and just get it knocked out, and we're not going to show up and then do our makeup and all that jazz. You would show up and be ready and prepared, because you could be done by noon. You could leave your family.
I would do that.
Yeah, we totally do it, right? But because we have all day, then we're like, okay, I'm going to come down at 9:30, and then I'm going to work on I'm not talking about you. I mean, you do it too, but I'm going to come down. I'm going to start putting my makeup on.
Usually we have like meetings or stuff in the morning where I'm putting my makeup on, or sometimes I come without makeup because I'm like, well, today I knew I wasn't going to do anything. So I was like, I don't need to put makeup on. But there's sometimes where Kate's like, let's do get ready with me on the live or whatever. So I don't know what's in store for the day until I get here. So often, then there's days where I have to be like photo ready. And sometimes I come photo ready.
Yeah.
And then other times I'm like, let me put on my makeup quick. And by quick, I mean 40 minutes.
Yeah. I'm usually never photo ready at 9 o'clock.
It's different though. You only take like 5 minutes to get ready.
Mine does take less time.
Your hair, on the other hand, takes a little bit.
Yes, it does.
So does mine.
So I guess as a whole, to wrap it up, we have found
so back to the topic at hand.
But yeah, overall, I guess that was kind of like a little glimpse into the day to day. Kate's Kate's really pretty much is the same every single day. She's basically launching product and figuring out ways to sell it. That's really
or like trying to show you how much she loves it.
Yeah.
And like styles it differently.
Takes pictures of it. I mean, that's really her day in and day out outside of being on meetings with us.
She does a lot more than what we're giving her credit for, but that's the gist of it.
But I just mean like her job really stays in the realm of sales. I don't mean to like downplay what she's doing at all. She's got the hardest, in my opinion, she's got the hardest job of all of us. I just mean in general,
her job's the one that I wouldn't want.
Correct.
I feel like I would like no, I wouldn't want yours either. I like mine.
I think we've all found the role we enjoy.
Exactly. I like my creative aspect. Like I like being able to edit, and I like taking photos, and I like doing graphics every once in a while, and I like making t-shirts and coming up with design. Like that's my vibe. I probably would choose Kate's next and then yours, because I don't love going to accountants office.
But I only do that like once a month.
Yeah.
Maybe every other.
I would still choose Kate's job over having to do the accountant once a month.
I honestly, if I could have, I really don't love the in front of the camera role. Like that's, I don't love photo shoots, and I don't really love, it's not that I don't love lives, because I like interacting with the customers. I do actually like that part of it. But there is this aspect of like, you kind of have to pump yourself up for a live a little bit, right?
Just because
Like
you know that you're going to be in it for at least an hour, if not more.
yeah. It's more like you have to be on. Like you can't just hop on and just be like, hey guys. You know what I mean? Like,
well, no one is like that in real life. Like you're never like, hey guys.
But I just mean there's just some days you're not feeling it, right? Like there's some days that it takes a lot to like be on a live, be engaging, like to be able to keep coming up with conversation, to have like, you can't just hold up a sweater and like over and over, like this is a medium, this is a large, like you have to have like, you know what I mean? There has to be an ongoing conversation.
Robots.
Well, I know, but I just mean as a whole.
I feel like that part of it doesn't affect me as much. Like I feel like that's fairly simple for me to do. Kate's more engaging than I am, but I feel like that's not hard for me to do, because I'm like, here lately I've been like talking to like Tori, shout out Tori, like my friends.
I feel like once I'm on, I'm fine, but I think it's like there's a little bit of like a mental battle in my head, because I would much rather be able to stay behind the scenes and do all of the, like if I could stay in front of a computer all day long and just do like spreadsheets. I like that stuff. Like I do. I like the behind the scenes piece of it.
Oh,
and so
gosh,
if I didn't ever have to be in front of a camera, I'd be fine. I'd be perfectly happy.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily choose to be in front of the camera. I'm more of a private person, I feel like, but like, I don't mind that. And I also really like talking to like our customers that feel like friends, like Tori. Shouted her out. Shout out Tori. But like, I like engaging in conversation and stuff like that. But I want to get on stories like Kate does and like style things. It doesn't sound fun to me. I mean, it's not bad, but like
it's shockingly very tiring to try on multiple.
You're changing.
Oh man,
cardio.
It is. Like it's a lot, and you get so hot and sweaty.
Yeah, because you're changing so much. It is fun though if you have a closet like Kate's, because it makes it a lot easier to
style stuff.
Whereas we used to have like tons of shoes and pants and stuff to like style things with when we were back at the warehouse, and we downsized that, and now I'm like, crap, what shoes do I wear? It's terrible. We don't have like black shoes.
Yeah, I know. We literally are like scraping.
And then I'm like, okay, I'll just crop our feet out of it.
We really don't need a full body image.
Honestly, we really don't.
It's rare. I mean, it's funny because we're finding that our ads are doing best when people's heads are chopped off.
Right? Because then you can pay attention. You can pay attention to the item that we're actually showing. Otherwise, they're like, what are you selling?
Then you know exactly what you're trying to buy.
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, what am I looking at? Because there are times that we style with things that we don't sell. So like if someone likes the shoes and we don't sell them, then that's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
So yes, it's been a learning lesson too.
100%.
So, well, we will end on that note. But that gives you a little bit of like a glimpse into the behind the scenes of Royal and Reese and what's been going on since we've transitioned to the basement and this dropship model that we have been doing now for 4 or 5 months.
And some tips and tricks from all of our mistakes.
Learn from our mistakes.
Learn from us. Let me just help you through it.
Oh, but if you've enjoyed this podcast and you would like to listen to more, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to the podcast. We are also available on YouTube and Rumble, where you can watch the actual video version, which a lot of people, I honestly,
you're really missing out on our glorious our
appearances. It's amazing. But I honestly love the video version best because I feel like that's when you truly get to see like all of everybody's responses. So anyway, if you'd like to subscribe to the podcast, you can do that by clicking the subscribe button on YouTube or Rumble. And we will be back next week with another episode, and Kate will be back with us by then as well. So thanks for joining us, guys. We will talk to you guys next week. Bye.